remember, it isn't just the company interviewing you. You are also interviewing them. And I think that the in-person interview puts you at an advantage for that.
If you're job searching right now, you're in the right place. Welcome to Land Your Next Job, the show that helps you move from ghosting and rejection to interviews and offers. I'm Erika Parker-Price, a certified career coach with a background in tech who has spent nearly a decade helping professionals land roles at companies like Microsoft, Google, and mission-driven organizations. Each week, I share what's actually working in today's job market, from LinkedIn and networking to how AI is reshaping hiring. You'll get clear strategies and inspiration so you can run this marathon without burnout or guesswork. Follow the show and let's land your next job together.
Hi, this is Erika Parker-Price. Welcome to this week's edition of Land Your Next Job. Today, we're going to be talking about the in-person interview. It is 2026, and it has been 6 long years since everything moved to Zoom. I've been coaching long enough that I walked through that with people when that was the strangest, weirdest thing. We had a steep learning curve back then. Remember, we were trying to figure out the lighting, the internet connection. Everybody was at home. We definitely had a rule in my house back then in 2020 when a lot of people had important things that nobody else could be on the internet. I had one son that was home from high school taking AP tests online. I had another son who had been sent home from college, and he was doing super day interviews on Wall Street. And when those things happened, absolutely nobody was allowed to be on any form of internet because it all had to go to the person who had the most important thing. Okay, so that was what we all went through 6 years ago. Now the pendulum has swung back, and not just in interviews. Specifically, it has swung back in favor of in-person work. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't lots of remote jobs out there and that there isn't a huge shift in the understanding of how a hybrid schedule can be beneficial for most people. But what I'm talking about today is specifically the in-person interview. And the reason that I decided to record this episode is I've had specifically 2 clients this month who have been faced with in-person interviews. And in both cases, it was something they had not done in not just 6 years, but probably more years than that because they weren't necessarily interviewing back in 2020. And I want to say that we have really changed the way that we work. We've changed the way that we meet people. We've changed the way that we interact. And that shows up in the interview. And that's why I think it has been tripping some people up when suddenly they're asked to come in person. Now, let's talk about what is good about in-person interviews. And then we'll get into what are the things that are stressing people out. And hopefully I'll give you some guidelines that will make this next time it happens for you less stressful. And really, that's what we're all going for here, right? On Land Your Next Job, it is all about landing that job. But before that, you have to get the offer. And before that, you have to get your foot in the door with an interview. So let's talk about what's good. I think that in-person interviews give you an amazing opportunity to build rapport that you don't necessarily get when you are in an online Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, whatever kind of call. They can be awkward online, and it's just harder to get into a normal conversation with somebody when you just both pop online and you're looking at those faces on the other side of the screen. I understand that for some people, it may be more comfortable to be online. And so stay tuned. We're going to keep talking about different ways to make this go well for you. But in general, I do think it's an opportunity to build that rapport. The second thing is, I think it really gives you a better chance to see what it would be like to work for that company. Companies aren't able to hide as much in the environment if you get to see it. You're going to be in the building. Maybe you're going to be working in this place 5 days a week. Maybe it's only once a week or occasional, but you're going to get to see the actual people that you're working with, the environment that it'll be in, and that can really tell you a lot. I remember one time I went to an informational interview for a company that I wanted to work for. I had gotten somebody to sit down and meet with me, even though they didn't have any open positions. And when I walked in, I thought that place truly felt like a sweatshop. I had a good conversation with her, but I knew 100% that that company was no longer on my list of companies that I wanted to work for. So I think you really get some insight. Remember, it isn't just the company interviewing you, you are also interviewing them. And I think that the in-person interview puts you at an advantage for that. I think you are better positioned in terms of how you can present yourself and what you can learn about the company by being in person. So I would not say that I think it is a negative thing. But what I do understand is that there are some struggles. There are the immediate questions that come up. And so I'm going to walk through some of those right now. The first one is something we used to talk about more, and in general, we've started talking about it less, but it's what do I wear? And this comment absolutely comes to me from both men and women. And I think I go back to the same advice that I used to give people way back when we were doing in-person interviews. And that is to dress as they dress for that particular role and company, or to be safe. And this is where I like to land. You dress one level up. So how do you know what it is that their dress code is? Some of you will know because you've been there, because you've worked in this particular industry before and you just know what the rules of the road are. Sometimes you might have to check in with colleagues. So this is a great time to use your network. If you happen to know people that work at the company, just run it by them. This is what I was planning to wear. Does that sound right? When I say dress one level up, let's say you're in finance and you're not sure if they wear ties or not. You know they're going to be wearing a dress shirt, dress pants, not sure on the tie, just go ahead and wear one. If you're in marketing and you don't know if they wear jackets, I would say go ahead and put that jacket on. Layered is good because then you can always adjust as the day goes on. The next piece of advice here also goes against everything that we've learned from being online, but you have to dress the whole body. Your shoes, your pants, your bag, the back of your hair, all of those things matter. It's a 360-degree world and somebody is going to have to come meet you. And so all those little details actually do matter. I'm not saying that you have to stress out, you have to spend a lot of money on it, but it's more than just putting on a shirt that doesn't have weird stripes that are going to look weird in Zoom. Dress for head to toe because that's how people are going to be seeing you. In general, my advice is that you want to be professional and comfortable. That is absolutely going to depend on what you are. In terms of a profession, a software engineer is going to be different than a vice president at a bank, but no one is going to blow an interview because they were overdressed. You want to be professional and comfortable, meaning that you feel good in your skin when you walk into that interview. So that gets one of the easy questions out of the way, but I definitely do get that question. The next question I get is really deeper, and it's how do I respond to the questions? How do I know what to say in an in-person interview? And I will share that a little secret that many of you have is that you have notes open when you're doing interviews. I'm not going to say that it's good or bad. I have some opinions on how much you should have, but a lot of people have either sticky notes or a second monitor or another Google Doc that's open right next to the Zoom screen. A lot of people have come up with strategies to have notes available to them while they're interviewing. And so one of the questions I get is, can I have notes that I reference in the interview? Can I look at my phone? Can I have a notebook, for example? And my answer to that is really no. So you are being asked to answer these questions as authentically as possible. And in doing so, it's really assumed that these come from your memory, just your way of being, that you have these answers within yourself. And what I want to tell you is that you really do have those answers within yourself. Now, I understand that it is a change if you have been relying on some sort of crutch, like a form of notes that you use in an interview. But I'm going to tell you, I think it really may help people show up better. I definitely have seen people who have not showed up well because they were relying on notes. This is your opportunity to really answer those questions authentically from the heart. So how do you do that? First of all, I'm going to say you need to prep. You may need to prep more for an in-person interview than you would have for a virtual interview. And then the next piece is that you practice, and you practice without notes. So when somebody starts an interview with, tell me about yourself, you need to be able to answer that question. And I think that this can be done with another person. I absolutely do this with my clients, and it can be done with another friend or family member. But what you want to be doing is putting yourself into that situation where you are giving eye contact to somebody. You can do it in a mirror if you want, but not in front of your computer. I want you to step away from your computer, and who knows, maybe you can do it to your dog. I have two little ones here, Enzo and Gizmo. They definitely hear things that I practice, but practice in a sense where you are going to be comfortable looking at somebody and answering that question without any assistance. And the reason I think practice is so important is I think we are all very used to being online right now, and it can be uncomfortable if it's something you haven't done in a while. I've been watching a show recently called Running Point, and they happened to have a job interview in it, and it made me chuckle a little bit. It was Ray Romano. He was coming in to interview for the head coach position for this LA basketball team, Kate Hudson being the president of the team that was interviewing him. And he basically just blows the interview. It is an awful interview. And when she follows up with him, he confesses he hasn't really talked to people in a while. Now, in his case, it's been a little bit dramatic. It's been a little bit more of a hermit. But answering questions across a table at an interview, if you haven't done that in a while, that's something to practice. And the last thing I want to say in terms of answering the questions is to remember that you don't need to fill all the time. We as humans are uncomfortable with silence, and so we tend to just start talking immediately, even before we've had a chance to formulate our answer. You're doing yourself a disservice by starting out immediately talking. So be okay with a little bit of silence. Be okay with a repetition of the question or praising of the question. That can look like, oh, that's a great question. Let me think about that. Or you can repeat it back to them, clarify, make sure you understand. And while you're doing that in the background, your brain is formulating that answer for you. I know that you all have the ability to go out and do these interviews, and I know that you have the ability to do it without any notes. I truly believe that it has been a crutch that people are relying on that they don't need, but they've gotten comfortable with. So practice without that crutch. And the next question I get for people that are going to an in-person interview is usually around, what do I bring with me? Am I supposed to bring a resume? Am I supposed to bring a laptop? I'll give my answer to the questions. I think you want to just pay attention to what you think you're going to need there. In terms of a resume, I would say yes. You want to have whatever it is that they ask you for, and I think a resume is a good idea. Do they have an online copy they can access somewhere? Maybe, but maybe they're not used to being in a conference room and doing interviews either. So any time that you can help them get a better understanding of you, I think that's helpful. Bringing your laptop, I think that's individual. Certainly if you've been asked to prepare anything, sometimes this in-person piece may come in later in the interview process, like you've been asked to come in and prepare a presentation. Even if they say like, oh, send it to us in advance and we'll have it up on screen for you, I think you want to always be as prepared as possible. So maybe having your laptop for that would help. I don't know that you need it for a regular interview where you're just being asked to step in, unless you're in a position where you think, maybe I'm going to have an opportunity to show them this new AI app that I created or my art portfolio. If there's something that you think you might want to reference, I think that's fine. Similar to how you may share your screen in an interview. It's rare that it happens, but if it's something like that, then sure, bring it along. But I don't think it's a definitely have to do situation. Okay, so those are the most common questions that I get. I want to give you a few additional tips. This is really just a reminder of things that you may have known in the past, or if you're new enough in your career that you haven't even done in-person interviews, then maybe this will be all brand new. The first one is to plan accordingly. And that involves traffic, parking, whether you are the type of person that likes to arrive early or not. It is a day to arrive early. And I say this as somebody who is not an early arriver, But if it is something that you are being asked to be there at a certain time, you want to give yourself plenty of buffer. So you don't want to stress yourself out when you are driving or commuting there. So just give yourself plenty of time. And then when you do get there, you're probably going to have extra time. Just have a low stress activity that will kill time while you're there. Don't spend that time looking for another job, something that's going to get you hyped up. Whatever it is you like to do, read a book, play a mindless game, whatever it is, that's fine. Even better if you have some sort of mindfulness practice where you can really get grounded and think about what is most important for yourself to communicate in this interview. I also like to remind people that it's all an interview. And when I say that, I mean from the time that you walk into the lobby to the time that you walk out, that is all an interview. So when you're walking to the conference room, when you're with the executive assistant, when you're eating lunch, maybe with some other members of the team, the small talk that you make about your commute or about your personal life, all of those things count as an interview. So don't ever think this isn't an interview because it hasn't started yet. It absolutely starts the moment you get there. And I think every single person is interviewing you, whether they are the scheduler, the recruiter, the hiring manager, the coworker. Literally every single one of those matters. I think it's also a good time to think about things that matter in person that you don't have an opportunity for, or maybe a different opportunity when you're online. The greeting is one of them. A nice strong handshake goes a long way. Eye contact is definitely different in person than it is online. And quite frankly, I think it might be easier for people when they are in person, but it's important to pay attention to how you're making that on eye contact. And particularly if you're interviewing with multiple people at the same time, it's like a panel interview, for example, you want to be looking at all the people so that you aren't just speaking to one. Now, hopefully the seating is such that you can look in that general area and you don't have to be turning from left to right all of the time. Eye contact is such an important piece of communicating trust and reliability and rapport, all of that. This is a great opportunity in an in-person interview. So hopefully all of that gives you a little bit of guidance on how to think about an in-person interview so that when you get that request, it isn't something that's going to freak you out, but it'll be something that makes you just do a happy dance and think, I finally get a chance to go tell somebody all the amazing things I can do. Yes, this is an amazing opportunity. I think the closing of the interview is a little bit easier in person as well. And by easier, what I mean is you potentially have a way to get a little bit more information. When you close a virtual interview, it is hard to get in questions that may give you information about the process. When you're in person, you're probably going to be exposed to a recruiter or an assistant that is taking you to the interview. And in that case, I think that there's an opportunity to ask, what are the next steps? Knowing that timeline can really help to relax you when you are in what tends to be a really long waiting game. And so that might be an opportunity to just get more information. It also might be a way to improve the follow-up process. So I know that can be a challenge for people. I always encourage sending thank you notes, and frequently you don't have the email for the person. And so that means they go through the recruiter. They may or may not get there. I think if you're interviewing individual people, it is fine to ask them to tell them you'd like to send a follow-up note and ask for what's their best email. I wouldn't make a big deal over it. Hopefully you already know how to spell their name. Hopefully the recruiter has provided that for you. So if that were me and I said it's Erika at erikaparkerprice.com, you would probably already know that Erika is spelled with a K because it was probably on your agenda for the day that the recruiter or the scheduler sent to you. In general, I think in-person interviews are a great opportunity. If it is something that you are worried about, I completely understand that. And so I hope this gives you some information that will set you at ease. It's one of the big areas where I help my clients. If you're ever interested in working with me and understanding what that might look like to take it to the next level, go to my website, erikaparkerprice.com, and you can book a free 30-minute call. I love talking to people about their journey, whether we end up working together or not. I always like people to walk away with some actionable feedback that they can take on their job search. So I would love to talk to you. I would love to hear what it is you're looking for, what challenges you're facing, and how we can get you to that point where you land your next job. Have a great week, everybody. I am rooting for you.
That's a wrap for this week on Land Your Next Job. If this episode helped, please leave a quick review and subscribe wherever you listen. Share it with a friend in transition, and I'll see you next Monday. Let's land your next job together.